record this. Um, First off, could you introduce yourself, including where you're from, your age, your passions, and something fun to share? Oh, sorry, I don't think I can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, for a sec, I'll just like close all my doors so nothing shows in the background. Could be a little distracting. Okay, be right back.
Okay. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing pretty well. Got a lot of fun time and free time for me because of quarantine, right?
All right.
Yeah.
A little
First off,
relaxing.
yeah. First off, could you introduce yourself, including where you're from, your age, your passions, and something fun to share?
Mhm. So I'm Stephanie Sue. I'm a junior at Doherty Valley High School in the East Bay. I'm passionate about so many things. For example, there's empowering women in tech, protecting the environment, sustainability, as well as math and CS. Was there anything else you wanted me to share?
Oh, just something fun to share, like something you did during quarantine, like.
Oh, so something fun to share is just an hour and a half ago, one of my organizations, Project Creative Future, just launched our first clothing drop. So that was really exciting.
Oh yeah, I saw it was called Philo, and you guys posted on the Instagram. It looks very cool.
Yeah.
Speaking about Project Creative Future, could you explain how and why it started and what it's all about?
So it started in November 2018. So the four of us, which was me, Sarah, Ellie, and Anya, we all came together with our passion for sustainability as well as art. And we wanted to do something that really made a difference because we saw how much detriment was happening to the environment in the status quo, and not enough is being done for that. So we decided to take action for ourselves and create this organization, Project Creative Future. So what we do is we create hand-designed products and we sell those and fundraise towards biodiversity efforts in Costa Rica. That's our first project, but once we close our Costa Rica project, we're looking to fundraise for something more local.
That's great. I know from reading the news about climate strikes, and the climate crisis is a very big issue, and we have to increase the biodiversity in several places. Considering that Earth Day is coming up in just a few days, it's very inspiring to see other teens go out their way to make products, organizations, and outreach events to help the environment. Speaking of it, who inspires you? Tell me about them.
Let's see, there's a lot of people that inspire me across multiple activities. So I think I'll have to think about that. Let's see. Okay, so I think I'm going to be really generic and say my mom inspires me because no matter what activity I do, she's always supportive of me. And no matter what, she's encouraging me, telling me that I can do things and picks me up even when I fall down. And also, her work ethic is absolutely amazing and inspirational. So I aspire to be just like her and work just as hard in order to achieve my goals.
Do you see any similarities between you and your mom, as in like role models?
Mm-hmm. So the first obvious similarity is everyone thinks we look the same. So that's the first one. Other than that, we are really alike in our patterns of growth. For example, we never give up. Even if other people tell us that we can't do something, we just keep on doing it anyway. And then we also stand up for our opinions at all times. And that's a trait that I really love about myself because no matter what happens, even if there's people confronting me, even if there's people disagreeing with me, I can always feel confident and justify my opinions and make sure that or try to make sure everyone sees the other side.
What is your proudest accomplishment? And noted, this doesn't have to be limited to professional.
I think my proudest accomplishment was kind of something professional. It was hosting Superposition 4 at Uber and also being the Bay Area's largest all-female hackathon. We ended up having 220 attendees, which is more than I ever could have hoped. For a while, I was thinking of having around 200 attendees, and I didn't really know what that meant or what that looked like. A huge one, and the fact that we were able to create such an empowering environment. Oh, the internet connection's unstable. Okay, where did I last leave off that you heard?
It was the Superposition FC, Superposition 4. I attended that and that was amazing. Could you explain more about it?
So for interview purposes, I'll explain what superposition is, and then you can use that as a quote if you want. But superposition is the Bay Area's largest all-female non-binary hackathon. We're open to high school and college students. This past year, in the end of February, we were able to host 220 attendees at Uber headquarters in San Francisco. It was the largest all-female hackathon in the Bay Area yet, and it was also one of the Bay Area's largest student-run hackathons overall, even among co-ed. So that was something I was extremely proud of, because my ultimate goal was just to create an empowering attendee experience, regardless of how many people were there. And I was so happy to see that so many people were able to come, and the vast majority were first-time hackathon attendees, which means that we were able to bring many girls who may not have had the opportunity or haven't had the motivation to join CS and bring them into this tech industry.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. What led you to achieve this?
So I went to Superposition 2. I wasn't thinking much about it when I went there. I just saw it was an all-female hackathon. It was in San Francisco and it was free. So of course I wanted to go. And it ended up being a really surprisingly empowering experience, because I thought we were just going there to code. But then I saw the community of girls around me and I realized that I'd never really been in a space like that before. In my STEM classes, I'd always been one of few girls in many classes. For example, my AP physics class, there's around 34 students and I'm one of 8 girls. So I found that absolutely ridiculous. But when I was in an all-female space, I felt really confident, and there was like no competitive environment whatsoever. It was just everyone wanted to support each other. So that's when I knew that I really wanted to get involved with Superposition. I ended up joining the Superposition organizing team as an operations team member for Superposition 3, and then that led me to become lead director for Superposition 4.
That's very inspiring, as I can relate to how girls are usually a minority in several STEM classes. What did you take away from this experience?
I realized that I was really privileged to not have felt discriminated against or necessarily discouraged by the environments I was in, because several years ago, I would have thought almost nothing about the gender gap. I usually just walked into the room, saw that I was one of the few girls, and I just laughed it off. But I realized that that's not something that should be okay, and that's not something I should be laughing off. I realized that bridging the gender gap in tech, that's an extremely important issue, and that's one that's not receiving enough attention right now. There are lots of organizations around, such as Built by Girls and Code with Clossy, that are out there making a difference. However, there's still a lot more to be done. So I was really surprised by the impact that Superposition was able to have in empowering girls and then bringing them into the tech space. And I know that's something that I want to do further.
How did this experience shape your current path?
What do you mean by current path?
Like what you plan to do in the future and how you plan to continue on in tech.
Mm-hmm. So starting with tech, I was really inspired by all the amazing projects I saw. And one of the prize categories that I wanted to have was Best Environmental Hack, because obviously that's something that means a lot to me. So seeing everyone talk about different ways to protect the environment was so inspiring. And I also wanted to learn more about other people's projects and how they're able to do them. For example, there was one machine learning project that used machine learning to detect like skin abnormalities or skin diseases just by scanning a photo, and I thought that was absolutely amazing. So that is an avenue of tech that I would really like to try. Otherwise, I realized from Superposition that I am passionate about social impact, because there's a lot of things I could do, such as build a CS program and solve a specific problem just to get a numerical answer. However, that's not just what I want to do. Well, that's not the only thing that I want to do. I want to be able to make a difference for other people and be able to create an impact that creates societal change. So after Superposition, I realized that not only do I want to build CS projects on the side, but I also want to create change for other people to experience.
So speaking of how STEM girls are a minority in STEM and they have to handle a lot of criticism, how do you handle criticism?
I usually handle criticism by most often brushing it off, because even though I at times have low self-esteem, I'm very confident in myself in certain aspects. For example, I'm really confident in myself as a leader, even when other people are telling me otherwise. That's only for criticism that's just pointless, like, oh, why are you doing this? This doesn't matter. However, with constructive criticism, I'm always, how's the internet connection right now? This is unstable. Are you still able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, my internet's just not super great, especially for the past few days on Zoom. So if anything cuts out, just let me know. But continuing on, I really appreciate having constructive criticism because I know that sometimes I only have a one set mind, so I'm unable to see opinions around me. And that is really crucial because if I don't accept other people's opinions, then there's no way I can make a change that can benefit all people. So with constructive criticism, I always try to dissect the reason why I got this criticism. And if I see a lot of validity in that, then I'll make sure that I incorporate that change as I move forward.
It's really cool how you can always have these great characteristics as both a leader and a female in tech. What do you hope to do and continue in the future?
So in the future, as for the most immediate thing, I will be applying to college in the fall and I will be majoring in computer science. I think computer science is just an amazing tool and allows me to solve problems, but it also gives me an analytical mindset that I can use to solve even larger problems. Other than that, I will be continuing working with social impact organizations for as long as I can because there's a lot of a change in this world to be made and I do want to be part of that.
That's great. What is your 3-year plan and how would you like others or me to help achieve it?
So 3-year plans in terms of what I want to do in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that is a really large question. Okay. So let's start off with this year. I think we can start there. So this year has definitely been unprecedented, as everyone likes to keep throwing around that word. But I think it's been a very good time for me because I've been able to focus specifically on activities I'm very passionate about. So I know that organizations like Superposition, Project Creative Future, I want to keep doing that in the following year. So for on the Project Creative Future side, I'll be continuing to work with the team in order to promote awareness about environmentalism, but also try to make more sustainable life choices for myself. For example, for the most part, I've been quitting fast fashion and I only buy secondhand clothing. So that's one small change I want to make in my lifestyle because as someone who really loves fashion, trying to turn away from the impulse of wanting to go to fast fashion was very difficult for me. Other than that, for Superposition, we're actually branching out to create an expansion initiative because back in December, I realized that all this work I was putting into Superposition, all the 6 months, that was going to just 24 hours. And I felt like female empowerment doesn't stop after 24 hours, so neither should Superposition. So that's another thing we're going to be working on for the next few months. We've already started a phase of that, which is having a workshop series and also doing a fundraiser to buy PPE for healthcare workers. So in the future, that's going to be my main 2 activities and things that I want to press, which is female empowerment as well as helping the environment. And later this year, I will be applying to college, which will be an extremely stressful time as for most students. So I'll be working on my activities and making sure my passions shine through those applications. And then once I inevitably pass the college applications, and I can't wait for that to happen, even though I haven't even started right now, I hope to choose a college that best suits my interests, which is social impact as well as CS. I don't know if I should be mentioning this, but right now my dream college is Stanford because I realized that the people on campus, they may not necessarily all be genius level. They're all very smart, but not necessarily genius level. But the one defining factor about them is that they want to make a change. And that's exactly the type of person I see in myself. So in college, I'll make sure that to use all my connections, use all my resources to keep creating the change that I want to see, specifically in the avenues of female empowerment, bridging the gender gap in tech, and ensuring that there's more sustainability in the world.
That's great. Now let's talk about your story of empowerment. What does empowerment mean or look to you?
Empowerment means making sure everyone feels like they belong in a certain environment. So that means having inclusion initiatives to make sure that everyone has a place and has someone to talk to and has the resources they need to succeed.
How do you empower yourself? Is there a specific time where you really shine through in empowering yourself?
So in January and February, I was having a very tough time with self-esteem because with most high schoolers, that time is really stressful. I had AMC competitions, if you know what that is. It's a math competition. Well, it's a national math competition, so there's that. And then Superposition was coming up. All these summer camp applications were coming up. And then every week getting failure after failure at debate tournaments. So it was a very difficult time for me because I kept feeling like I wasn't good enough and that I was an imposter and that I didn't deserve the positions that I held. However, I had to take a step back and realize that I have gone a long way since in the past few years, and I have changed so much. One thing about myself that I really take pride in is the fact that I'm self-reflective. So even when I do make mistakes, I take those mistakes and I own up to them, but I also think about why they happened and make sure that those things don't happen again so I can keep bettering myself. So one thing I do is look at how I was a few years ago and realize that I've come so far since then, and I can keep going farther. Even if there's a few hiccups in the road, there is always something more to be done. But then I also look to some of my past accomplishments, and I tell myself that I am a strong leader. So even if I don't feel like I'm as strong right now, I know I can do whatever I can do, whatever I want to, as long as I put my mind to it.
Yeah, it's very empowering seeing you go through so much and having a growth mindset and keeping your head up. How do you empower others?
So the main way is through superposition, obviously. My main goal throughout the past 6 months leading up to superposition was maintaining attendee experience. Because no matter how many people showed up, it didn't matter unless they were all having a great, empowering time. So what I wanted to do is make sure that we had mentors that were eager to help them, have workshops that would be very helpful in learning how to navigate the world of coding, which can be really complicated at times, and overall creating an atmosphere where people felt like they belong. And the best way that I found was through having an all-female and non-binary environment. Because when you are in a co-ed environment, usually at hackathons, a good 70% or so of the attendees are male. And I've heard so many horror stories of girls feeling discriminated against or even experiencing sexism when they're at these co-ed events. So one way that I like to empower others is to create environments in which they know that they belong and they feel empowered to do even more.
That's great. What is some advice that you could give to people who want to empower themselves and others?
Oh, that's a really good question. Let's see. I will have to think about that for a second because I think that is a complex question. How to empower? I think education is one of the best ways of empowerment because when you know more, when you have access to more opinions and more information, you have a more complete sense of who you are and how you can help other people. So my number one advice is just to go out and learn. Learn about anything that you're passionate about. For example, whether it's finance or it's computer science or even more fun subjects like fashion and makeup, which I'm very much into. In order to feel more confident and more sure of yourself, I think it's necessary to know who you are in the beginning. So overall, just keep learning about yourself and seeing what your interests are and what kind of change you'd like to make.
That's great. I'll keep in touch with you when we post your story or highlight you. Is there anything else you need from me or any questions?
I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, next up, I'll need a headshot for this along with a sign release form and feedback form that I'll send to you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Should I just send the headshot to the same email?
Yes.
So you emailed me, I think it's some San Jose email. Would you just like me to send the headshot there?
Yes, please.
Okay,
and then
great.
I'll send it to Global Girlhood.
Okay, thank you so much for interviewing me. I had such a great time.
Thank you so much.